Shadow Clone Jutsu is probably one of the most insane jutsus in Naruto, and frankly, probably one of the most insane techniques in all of anime. And Dragon Ball does have something pretty similar in the multiform technique, but it's just nowhere near as good as Shadow Clones. Shadow Clones split your chakra evenly between each clone, and unlike the multiform technique, which actually splits your strength and power in half, the multiform technique is literally useless in Dragon Ball for that reason. When using it, being that it splits your power level in half and continues to split it depending on how many clones you actually use, it makes it so Shadow Clones are just leagues better because all it does is evenly split your chakra, which isn't necessarily deemed as strength. In Naruto, there are literal characters that don't have that much chakra but are still very, very strong in their own right. Now, why am I talking about this, you may be asking? Well, if you read the title, I was wondering what would have happened if Goku actually knew Shadow Clone Jutsu, a way better version of the multiform technique. Yes, I know there isn't chakra technically in Dragon Ball, but ki and chakra are very similar. So now with that said, if Goku knew how to use shadow clones that would evenly split your ki but not your power level like the multiform technique, like I was saying earlier, he would be very, very, very overpowered. Now you may be saying, well yeah, duh, it would make fights super easy. And to an extent, you're right. Dragon Ball would be a breeze, and frankly most of Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super would be the same way. But let's be honest, Goku's not a big fan of, well, using kind of cheap techniques in a fight. I mean, there's an argument that he didn't even want to use the God form in terms of against Beerus, which technically isn't really an argument. He said he didn't really like the idea of it at all. Of course, he was forced into that position, so maybe he would use shadow clones if he really, really had to in a fight, but in all reality, he wouldn't want to. Like I said though, Dragon Ball would be super easy, and not because of the Shadow Clone Jutsu technique in its entirety in a fight, but more because of the training. Now, we all know that Naruto used a ton of Shadow Clones to learn techniques, or actually create a very, very, very strong technique in Shippuden. So Goku could do something very similar, but the scaling of Dragon Ball's power is far different. I mean, think about it this way. Goku from Dragon Ball into Dragon Ball Z, so right before Raditz, would have so much more quote-unquote time to train even when he gets married to Chi-Chi. Because yes, he wasn't training as much, but who says he couldn't send off one shadow clone to just train as much as possible while he stays there with Chi-Chi? Yeah, it would be an insane thing. And once the shadow clone goes poof, all of that power, knowledge, and everything that they've trained gets bestowed into the original Goku. So that would make him even stronger, and he's literally, well, in a technical sense, isn't doing anything. The main version of Goku is still with Chi-Chi all the way up until the Raditz fight, or until Raditz arrives. But in all reality, Raditz wouldn't even stand a chance here. Goku's training would be a lot more fruitful throughout Dragon Ball, making all of his foes a lot easier. He would easily defeat Raditz, and even if it came down to a more of a, oh, Piccolo needs to use the special beam cannon, then Goku could just use a shadow clone to hold Raditz and he wouldn't die. So yes, technically Goku most likely wouldn't end up having the Kaioken to, well, fight Nappa and Vegeta, but there's an argument there that he would easily defeat them anyways, because of one thing and one thing only: shadow clones. Not to fight them, but a year's worth of training with shadow clones, with his son, with Piccolo, with all of these other Z fighters would be so fruitful for Goku that his power level would be far beyond anything Nappa and Vegeta could handle, even without gravity training. Yeah, without gravity training in general. Now, with that said, let's say all this is said and done. Let's say Vegeta still gets away, because, I mean, it's a very Goku thing to do, to, you know, let him go away. And traveling to Namek with Goku, and actually utilizing gravity training now, under the stress of 100 times gravity, he would easily be able to adapt to it far easier. That's just a fact. Goku would have training partners of his own strength, which is absolutely insane for training and growing in power. And yes, don't get me wrong, the downside would be less ki, but having a partner in 100 times gravity would make up for it tenfold, 20-fold, whatever you think of, because ki in terms of hand-to-hand combat and also, well, just like getting a good solid train in doesn't matter as much as you would actually believe. We really haven't seen Goku run out of ki that often. Yes, of course, we have like the Super Saiyan 3 and also kind of like in the Tournament of Power, but that's kind of a large margin, and there's an argument there that there really shouldn't have been any way Goku could last that long in the Tournament of Power with using the amount of ki he was using. And a little bit of time of him just, you know, resting, quote unquote, allowed him to recover so much. And it's pretty insane how much ki reserves these people have, like Goku, like Vegeta. It's absolutely insane, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But let's go back to the training in 100 times gravity. Well, we remember how strong Goku got going into Namek. Yeah, he would be even stronger. It would be insane how strong he is. I mean, we've seen before that, well, when you have a actual training partner, which would literally be himself, it would make for a massive difference. So that time period of him going to Namek, training day in and day out in 100 times gravity would be so much more fruitful. And yes, he doesn't have Kaioken, which may be an issue, but still, I think the downside of not having Kaioken but still having shadow clones to raise one's power level via training would make up for the difference pretty easily. Now let's just say Goku arrives and still, well, loses to Ginyu, which isn't really losing. He basically just gets his body taken away. I mean, when he gets healed up, it would be pretty crazy how strong he is. It would be so much higher than when he got healed up again to fight Frieza, which I believe was a 3 million power level. It wouldn't even be close to 3 million. It would be so much higher than 3 million, arguably. And the fact is, since he would constantly train like throughout this entire time, he would be probably up and beyond Frieza by a good margin. Because at the end of the day, shadow clones would make normal training 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, or maybe even more fruitful than that. Now, with that said, he would take on Frieza, and even if he is behind in power level, I mean, I know he probably wouldn't like doing it, but shadow clones to fight Frieza would be a pretty easy win. Even if the power gap is not that much, or even a little bit more than Goku would expect, well, it would easily be able to beat Frieza if he utilized shadow clones. But in my opinion, Goku would be far stronger than Frieza at this point, and Goku would easily defeat him even in his 100% form. And that's not even including if he goes Super Saiyan against Frieza. There's a good chance he does, just from the quality of training he's been going through. Yes, you might say, well, he has no idea how to go Super Saiyan in the first place. Well, Goku is a master martial artist, he has an understanding of ki control, and frankly, shadow clones would only rise his ideas of ki control to his own betterment. So the idea that Goku would be not only strong enough, but most likely have the capabilities of going Super Saiyan is not too far-fetched at all. Now, it would of course be better if we get a bit of, you know, Krillin dying or something like that, and if that does happen, Goku would guaranteed go Super Saiyan. And that version of Goku would be immensely more powerful than Frieza, and it wouldn't even be close. Not even one bit. Frieza would easily be defeated, or, you know, defeated to a certain extent, and let's just say, well, the planet would still be on the verge of blowing up. Goku still has to make his trip to Yardrat on a grand escape of some sorts. Now, you thought instant transmission was awesome from Yardrat, this trip would be even more insane. Goku would recover on Yardrat, he would learn instant transmission, but there's an argument here that he just makes shadow clones and learns every technique he possibly can. I mean, Goku realized easily throughout Dragon Ball and throughout his time in Dragon Ball Z so far that he could easily learn techniques as long as he utilizes his shadow clones. And when he does that, it's over. He learns all the Yardratian techniques, of course, some of them being, let's just say, not of Goku-esque in terms of fighting. I mean, Goku isn't the biggest fan of taking someone's energy away from them, but we've seen how strong Vegeta got from Yardrat training because they have some insane control on, guess what? Ki. And his insane control on Ki would allow him to, guess what? Or do, guess what? More shadow clones. Yeah, I know it seems repetitive, but it's the truth behind it, or at least the truth behind what I see in terms of shadow clone jutsu in Dragon Ball. Now, let's talk about the androids. Training for the androids would be insane. I mean, everyone kind of had their own struggles when training for those 3 years. Some didn't have the best training partners, some did. Goku did most of his training with Gohan and Piccolo and so on. But imagine if Goku just split himself up and consistently did training with everyone. Everyone would be vastly stronger, including Goku. You might be saying like, oh yeah, but he has weaker training partners. But at the end of the day, he is training with a partner, but it's another version of himself that once they disappear, once they're poofed out of existence, all the power, all the techniques, everything goes back into Goku, which is absolutely insane to think about in terms of how the progression of Goku could get. Now, I will say one thing, there's an argument to be made that in terms of power level, it wouldn't work this way, that shadow clones wouldn't actually be able to get physical kind of betterment in terms of power level or strength, and it's only techniques. But we're talking about the world of Dragon Ball versus the world of Naruto. They work very differently, so in my opinion, this would definitely be something that would occur in terms of the progression of Goku. But that's something for you guys to argue in the comment section about. Hey, maybe you don't agree with it, maybe you do, that's fine. Either way, this is a what if, so you can kind of come to your own conclusion on that or in that regard. But let's talk about what would happen to the androids, and it would practically be the same with the whole Goku heart virus thing. So unfortunately, nothing different necessarily would happen, and there is maybe an argument that Goku could go and fight a semi-perfect Cell and defeat him. But let's just say the Cell Saga, for the most part, actually goes about the same. And Goku and Gohan do end up going in the time chamber, which would end up being kind of a crazy, probably insane power kind of boost for both Gohan and Goku. Because, well, for one, Goku could teach Gohan how to make shadow clones, and frankly, he could have taught basically all the Z fighters how to learn it, but I mean, it's a very complex technique, so with Goku being in the time chamber, I think it makes more sense for him to teach Gohan, and the other Z fighters' ki pulls are just nowhere near as good as Goku's and Gohan's, but the training in the time chamber would be insane. Would be absolutely insane. They could have clones of clones of clones of clones fighting and training that entire time. That would make Cell an absolute breeze. But now let's talk about something else that could possibly happen with Cell. Now, yes, it would make Cell a breeze. They would easily have Super Saiyan 2. Maybe their power would even far supersede that. But imagine this. Cell would arguably have the shadow clone technique, and yes, this would be pretty good for him in battle, but if he did decide to train all the way up until the Cell games with shadow clones, it would be a pretty tough fight, and Cell would probably end up beating all of them. But let's be real about it, right? In all fairness, if he did decide to train, he probably would be far above. But still, Cell decided when he was waiting that he was already perfect. He was already far beyond everyone else. So he believed that he didn't have to train, that he didn't have to get stronger. So yes, Cell would have the Shadow Clone Jutsu, but would he use it in the way Goku is using it? At least for the time all the way up until the Cell games? Probably not. Cell was very overconfident, very cocky. He knew how strong he was. He knew how powerful he was. And he'd probably be even stronger than Canon Cell. But still, it wouldn't be enough to stop Goku or Gohan from defeating him. So, Cell's gone. Poof. Guys, completely eviscerated and killed. So now we have a large time skip. And frankly, the Buu saga would be very simple. For one, even if Buu was awakened, they would have plenty of power to handle it. But Goku also has techniques from Yardrat that would literally make stealing power extremely difficult for Babidi. So Buu just wouldn't be awakened, and Babidi and Dabura would easily be defeated. And we could kind of just skip over that. Let's just talk about Beerus, because that's what really matters in terms of this sense. Now, in terms of how far along Goku is in terms of strength, he would definitely still need Super Saiyan God. And, well, Goku, even with Super Saiyan God, would still most likely not be able to beat Beerus. I know that in the comment section, a lot of people, we talk about how we don't really know Beerus' strength, and we don't know how strong he truly is. But I think this version of Goku, the Super Saiyan God version of Goku that gets awakened against Beerus, is a lot stronger than the canon one. But I would be kind of off to say that Goku would defeat him. I truly believe Beerus would be too powerful, even with the crazy amounts of training Goku has been given and been getting. But now that he has God Ki, and once he goes to start training with Whis and such, Goku's training and advancements due to Shadow Clones now would make before look absolute amateurs. Because before, he had no God Ki. So he was just working with regular Ki, getting stronger and stronger. Now that he has God Ki, and it's arguably a multiplier of probably like 20,000. I know there's some theories out there, but God Ki is extremely strong. Imagine his evolution with God Ki. Learning how to use God Ki, easy. Super Saiyan Blue, no problem. Shoot, even learning Ultra Instinct would be quicker. It would be a far quicker process, because at the end of the day, there could be 10 or more Gokus working on learning how to use certain techniques. Goku might even want to send off shadow clones of himself to learn more and more techniques all across the universe. You never really know. But the shadow clone jutsu technique makes things so much different in Dragon Ball, especially with training. So at the end of the day, there is a reason why a technique like Shadow Clone Jutsu isn't in an anime like Dragon Ball, where you can evolve drastically through training and everything is based on raw power and so on and so forth. At least in Naruto, in terms of Shadow Clones, they use it to learn complicated jutsu. In Dragon Ball, the power scaling is just far different, making for a Goku that would progress so quickly, it would be insane. And it's not like it's a shortcut. Each Goku is still putting in the work and the grueling training. So no mental block in that regard of like Goku saying, you know what, I can't really do it because it's cheating, I'm taking the easy way out, and so on and so forth. And in turn, this would make for a very, very, very OP Goku and a very OP Gohan, at least possibly in terms of if he gets taught the Shadow Clone Jutsu technique. And shoot, we could even go further and say that it would probably make for some very overpowered Z fighters. Now, with that said, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I would love to see what you guys think of what would have happened if Goku knew Shadow Clone Jutsu. I know some of you will have your own techniques, or your own takes, excuse me. And some of you will agree with me, some of you will maybe partially agree with me. Maybe some of you don't agree with me at all. That's completely fine. Leave it in the comment section below. Please be civil. Nobody's stupid. We're all just here to have fun at the end of the day. These are what ifs. So be creative with the way you're thinking. And yeah, that's all I got to say. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.